On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk, conservative organizer and founder of Turning Point USA, was shot and later died at a university rally. Authorities arrested 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Investigators say surveillance, DNA, and digital traces link him to the shooting, and he allegedly confessed to a family member who alerted law enforcement. Robinson now faces aggravated murder and related charges as investigators probe motive and whether anyone else knew. Reports suggest online grievance and political animus may be part of the picture, but a full, court-tested motive has not been established.
He creates a fictional problem while downplaying the real history of far-right violence against the American public, from the Oklahoma City bombing to January 6th.
I just want to give a warning there. We're not going to tolerate that anymore.
Mr. Chair, since I wasn't allowed equal time to debate, I have a UC. It is from, it looks like Yahoo News. It says, Charlie Kirk suspect's grandma says family is all MAGA.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Ms. Greene from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can assure you that the 22-year-old man, Tyler Robinson, that murdered Charlie Kirk is not MAGA. His family may be Republican, but all of the evidence that is being presented proves that he is a far leftist, very much integrated in online groups that are linked to Antifa. He was in a relationship with a biological male, so-called furry, whatever that is transitioning to be a fake woman. He was not MAGA, not one bit. That is a complete lie, and it's an insult to every single Republican and person that identifies with those type of politics. We will not tolerate it. And that is the exact type of language that is getting many of us death threats day after day, and led to shootings on the baseball field where Steve Scalise was shot. This is what led to President Trump nearly being assassinated this past summer. This is what has led to Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And so I just want to give a warning there. We're not going to tolerate that anymore. You know, something else we're not going to tolerate is crime. On August 11th, President Trump announced major steps to address the out-of-control crime in the district. Thank God, because this is my 5th year in Congress, and living in D.C. and working here has been a nightmare. It is. The crime is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And let's talk about some of that. Since President Trump thankfully brought in the National Guard, carjackings have decreased by 87%. Nearly 1,200 people have been arrested, including known members of MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Those are both foreign terrorist organizations. By the way, many of them came across the border while Democrats controlled this country in the past 4 years. Federal law enforcement seized nearly 120 firearms and busted a drug trafficking ring attempting to smuggle fentanyl, PCP, and cocaine into D.C. A joint effort by ICE and MPD arrested an illegal alien previously charged with sex crimes against a child. D.C. went 12 days without a single homicide. Can you imagine that that's something that the National Guard had to be here to do? Thank you.
Without objection to order, Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Yes, I request unanimous consent to enter into the record this September 16, 2025 article from Time titled "Trump Called for a Crackdown on the Radical Left, but Right-Wing Extremists Are Responsible for More Political Violence," which calls out the game the president is playing, in which he creates a fictional problem while downplaying the real history of far-right violence against the American public, from the Oklahoma City bombing to January 6th. I got another one.
Objection, so ordered.
All right, the next one is for, it's an article from September 12, 2025. Article is from Democracy Docket titled, "I Couldn't Care Less, Trump's Downplaying of Right-Wing Violence Continues Long Pattern," which calls out the game the president is playing, in which he creates a fictional problem while downplaying the real history of far-right violence against the American public.
Let's be absolutely clear. Hearings are not movie sets. They are institutions built to translate evidence into public record, And yet what we witnessed in that clip was less about evidence and more about two competing narrative architectures. On one side, Crockett, visibly alarmed, weaponizes rhetorical containment. Deny the politicizing of a murder into a partisan brand, point to other historical instances of political violence, and demand accountability for language that inspires threats. Her urgency is moral. Rhetoric shapes risk. On the other, Greene converts the shooting into a policy narrative. Lawlessness, border failures, the efficacy of the guard. A classic conservative pivot from individual criminality to systemic law and order. Her tactic is not to dispute the murder's facts, but to reframe the stakes to public safety and criminal justice. Both moves are politically coherent. Both are incomplete. This is not unprecedented. American politics has periodically bled into violence. Oklahoma City, the attempted assassination of a sitting president's ally. The shooting at the congressional softball practice that nearly killed Steve Scalise, the January 6th insurrection. Each episode was followed by the same questions. Did rhetoric push someone to violence? Did institutions fail to act on warning signs? Did partisan leaders diffuse responsibility or inflame it? If we only argue about whether the shooter was MAGA or Antifa, we lose the human ledger. A life ended, a campus traumatized, a family undone. Political labels have a function. They simplify moral intuitions, but they also cheapen human complexity. When every shooting becomes a partisan trophy, we invite two pathologies. 1. The public becomes numb. 2. Leaders weaponize grief for political advantage. Congressional hearings should be a place to hold power to account and extract facts, not a stage to score rhetorical points. When representatives rush to brand a suspect in the immediate aftermath, they trade the slow dignity of investigation for the short thrill of political affirmation. So ask yourself, do we want leaders who insist on truth before triumph, or leaders who win the framing before the facts? If you care about a politics that preserves public life, push for processes that privilege evidence over amplification, restraint over reflex. Subscribe if you want more disciplined reaction, not cheap outrage, and drop a comment. How should public officials talk about violence without turning it into political currency? Is this leadership, or is it the symptom of a politics exhausted and weaponized?